It started with a laugh, believe it or not. Yeah, that kind of sharp, nervous laugh you give yourself when the night feels just a little too quiet. Emily had just locked up the diner, her hands stiff from wiping tables all day, the smell of coffee and grease still clinging to her. The rain came out of nowhere, thin, icy needles hitting the cracked sidewalks of Portland, Oregon, and she muttered something under her breath, tugging her coat tighter. This was her life. Midnight walks home, leftover food swinging in a plastic bag, and dreams she didn't talk about because, well, dreaming felt like a luxury when you were just trying to survive. She cut through the same narrow alley she always used. A shortcut, but everyone in the neighborhood knew shortcuts came with risks. Emily told herself she was fine. She always was. But when she heard footsteps behind her, quick and too steady to be casual, her heart stuttered. She kept walking, chin down, like every woman learns to do. Then a hand grabbed her arm. You know that moment where time kind of snaps? That was it. Her first instinct was to jerk away, maybe scream, but she looked up, and that's where everything shifted. The guy was tall, hood pulled low, shadows covering half his face, but his grip wasn't rough, it was controlled, like he was holding her still on purpose, not hurting her. Keep walking, he whispered, and there was something in his voice. Urgency, not threat. His eyes darted past her shoulder. Trust me. Just walk. Now, Emily wasn't stupid. But there's a certain kind of truth you hear in a man's voice, and this one had it. So she moved. He stayed right beside her, his hand dropping as they crossed the street, both of them quickening their steps until they hit a pool of yellow streetlight. That's when he stopped. He backed up, hands raised, like he didn't want to scare her. Sorry, I saw those guys trailing you. 2 of them. They've been watching you since the diner. Emily turned her head, and sure enough, 2 silhouettes melted into the alley's darkness. A chill ran straight through her. Who are you? She managed. Name's Marcus. Just someone who's been there. His clothes were old. Shoes didn't even match. And up close, he looked like the kind of man most people crossed the street to avoid. But his eyes, they carried something heavy, something he wasn't saying. I didn't want what happened to my sister to happen to you. That hit her harder than the fear had. They stood in silence for a beat, both of them shivering in the rain. And Emily did something she hadn't planned. She handed him the bag of food. It's still warm. Please. He hesitated, then nodded, almost shyly. Thanks. Maybe, take a cab next time. Emily gave him a small smile. Yeah, maybe. But you know what? That wasn't the end. Because some people get stuck in your head, and Marcus did. A week later, she found him again, sitting on a crate in that same alley, eating from a dented can. His face lit up when he saw her. Didn't think I'd see you again. She handed him a thermos and a sandwich. Brought you dinner. And that's how it started. They talked. About his 2 tours overseas. About the sister he lost to an alleyway attack. About how he'd fallen into depression and ended up on the streets. Emily listened, really listened, and she never once treated him like a charity case. She just talked to him like a friend. And Marcus, well, he started to look forward to her visits. Sometimes she stayed longer than she meant to, sharing pieces of herself, too. How she missed her mom singing. How she felt invisible most nights despite being surrounded by people. Marcus became her confidant, the person she could finally say those things out loud to. Then one rainy evening, she showed up with a binder. What's this? Marcus asked. Job listings, she said, sliding it toward him. And I made you a resume. Marcus actually laughed. Deep, genuine laughter, the first in a long time. I haven't worked in years. Emily grinned. You served your country, Marcus. That counts. That was the turning point. 2 months later, Marcus had a job, night security at a shipping warehouse, thanks to a veteran manager who gave him a shot after Emily called on his behalf. He got a tiny studio apartment, nothing fancy, but it had heat and a lock on the door. Emily showed up with a second-hand microwave and a stack of books. You're officially not homeless anymore, she said. Marcus's eyes welled up. Because of you. But she shook her head. Because of you. You just needed someone to remind you. And here's the twist, you know what I mean? Kindness is contagious. A regular at the diner overheard Emily talking about applying to night school. Turns out, the woman was a retired college counselor. Within 6 months, Emily was taking classes in hospitality management, her dream of opening a bakery finally feeling real. Marcus even helped her study, quizzing her with flashcards during his lunch breaks. The first time he showed up in a car. Yeah, Marcus had saved enough to buy a used sedan. Emily nearly cried. "Thought you might need a ride," he said, grinning. "If I'm going to help others, I need wheels." That night, driving her home through quiet streets, he said something that stuck with her forever. "You saved me, Emily. That night in the alley, I wasn't just watching you. I was watching the man I used to be. And you gave me a reason to matter again." She looked at him, her voice soft. "Marcus, you've always mattered." A year later, Emily stood under twinkling lights in a modest church hall. It was her wedding day, not to Marcus, of course, but he stood proudly beside her in uniform, the one who walked her down the aisle. When the minister asked, "Who gives this woman away?" Marcus's voice boomed, "I do." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Emily eventually opened her bakery, naming it Grace's Hearth after her mother. Marcus worked security there on weekends, telling kids stories and making them laugh. And on the back wall hung a framed photo of that alley. Yeah, the same dark, rain-slick alley where kindness changed everything. Because sometimes what looks like danger is grace in disguise. Sometimes the people who seem most broken carry the strongest hearts. And sometimes one small act changes the whole damn world. Now let me ask you, what would you have done that night? Would you have trusted Marcus? Would you have stopped for a stranger later? Or kept walking? Drop your thoughts below, because I want to know, do you think kindness like this can survive in a world like ours? Or was this just a once-in-a-lifetime miracle? You'd think the story ended there, right? Happy endings, bakery lights glowing warm in the windows, Marcus standing guard with a cup of coffee in hand. But life doesn't tie itself up neatly, and people like Marcus and Emily, well, they're magnets for the kind of moments that test you all over again. It was almost a year after the wedding when things shifted. One cold Friday night, Marcus was closing up the bakery after Emily had left early to finish a school project. The street outside was quiet except for the hum of a late bus rolling past. Marcus turned the key in the lock, humming to himself, when he noticed a figure standing just beyond the glow of the street lamp. A kid, couldn't have been more than 17, thin, hunched in a hoodie too big for him, eyes darting like a trapped animal. Marcus knew that look. He'd seen it in mirrors when he was younger, and on too many street corners later. He called out softly, "You hungry, kid?" The boy didn't answer, just shifted his weight like he was ready to bolt. Marcus didn't move closer. "Look, there's leftover bread. No strings. Just food." The kid hesitated, then slowly stepped forward, hands jammed in his pockets. Marcus opened the door, letting him into the warm bakery smell. The boy grabbed a loaf and tore into it like he hadn't eaten in days. That's when Marcus saw it. A bruise along his jaw, the kind you don't get from falling. "You got a name?" Marcus asked. "Eli." The kid mumbled through a mouthful. "Thanks, man." Marcus nodded. "Anytime." That night might have been nothing more than a kind gesture if it ended there. But Eli came back. And over the next weeks, Marcus learned pieces of his story. Foster care, bad crowd, worse decisions. He'd been running errands for a gang, and now he was in too deep to just walk away. Marcus tried to keep things light, not push too hard. But one evening, Eli finally said it. "If I don't do what they want, they'll come after me." Marcus's gut tightened. He knew exactly how that felt. Emily, of course, noticed Marcus getting quieter these days. She found him one night sitting at the counter long after closing, head in his hands. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice soft. Marcus sighed. "There's this kid. He's me, 10 years ago. And if I don't help him, he's not going to make it." Emily didn't hesitate. "Then we help him." And here's where the story took a turn nobody expected. Because helping Eli meant confronting people Marcus swore he'd never cross paths with again. One rainy Thursday night. Rain, of course, because these things always seem to happen in the rain. Marcus told Eli to meet him by the old bus station. Emily begged him not to go alone, but Marcus just gave her that steady look, the one that said, "I've been through worse." "I'm not letting this kid get swallowed by the streets," he told her. "Not if I can pull him out." The meeting went south fast. Marcus stood under a broken streetlight, facing two men who looked exactly like the shadows from that night with Emily. Eli was trembling behind him. "The kid's done," Marcus said firmly. "He's out. You want someone to run your errands? Find another." One of the men laughed, stepping closer. "And what if we don't like that answer?" That's when Emily showed up. Yeah, Emily. She'd followed Marcus. Of course she had, because Emily wasn't the type to stay home and wait for news. She marched right into the middle of it, holding up her phone. "Smile for the camera, boys. I just sent your faces to half the cops in this city." The men froze, calculating, and for a second Marcus thought this was going to turn ugly anyway. But then the taller one cursed under his breath, shoved his hands in his pockets, and stalked off into the night. The other followed. Just like that, it was over. Or maybe it wasn't, but in that moment, it felt like a win. Eli stared at them, stunned. "Why'd you do that?" he asked, voice shaking. Marcus clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Because someone once gave me a second chance. Now it's your turn. Don't waste it." In the weeks that followed, Eli started working part-time at the bakery, washing dishes, helping with deliveries. Emily taught him how to frost cupcakes, laughing when he got more icing on himself than the cake. Marcus kept a close eye on him, but slowly, Eli started to change. He smiled more. He showed up on time. He even started talking about finishing school. One night, while sweeping the bakery floor, he looked at Marcus and said, "You think people like me can really start over?" Marcus just smiled. "Kid, I'm living proof." But here's where the story refuses to wrap itself in a bow. Because late one evening, as the bakery lights flickered off, Marcus found a folded piece of paper tucked under the door. No name, just a message in messy handwriting. "You think this is over? Watch your back." Marcus didn't tell Emily. He just slipped the note into his pocket, his jaw tightening. He'd been given a second chance once, and he wasn't about to let fear take it away now. But he knew what this meant. The past had a way of clawing back, and that's where I'll leave you. Because maybe Marcus can keep Eli safe. Maybe the ghosts of his own mistakes are about to catch up with him. What do you think? Would you stand your ground if danger came knocking again? Or would you walk away to protect yourself? Drop your thoughts below, because this story isn't finished yet, and maybe, just maybe, the next choice decides everything.